Previously on the Outside of Sunday podcast.
I'm Leanne and I work for Free Reign International. We work largely in the anti-trafficking, mainly with sex trafficking. We're seeing generations now be changed. We heard stories of people going for jobs in hospitals and offices, law firms and, professional jobs, going for interviews and being told, yes, you can have this job if you sleep with me.
Hey, you're listening to the Outside of Sunday podcast. Is your faith stuck on Sunday? Christianity was never meant to be constrained to a weekly church service. I'm Krista and I'm here to help and encourage you to live your faith outside of Sunday.
We'd heard of cases within one of the other slums that had come off, I think it was a BBC documentary, where women were responsible for collecting the water for their families or for the day or whatever, and they would go to get water from the main water storage areas, and the exchange for the water was that they had sex with those selling the water. So for even something like clean water. And so we began to ask around, is this true? Is this true? Yeah, and everywhere we went, yeah, that's true. That's what happens.
Gosh. And that is what you kind of become accustomed to, and that this is the currency.
Yeah.
My body is the currency.
My body is the currency, and you want this one, a barrel of clean
water.
water.
Barrel of water is the value. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so we heard those stories, and unfortunately, it got worse because we were talking to a member of staff of Mohi, and we said, is this your experience? Is this what you are aware of happening within the community? And she said, yes, that is my experience, that is what happens. And she said, and young girls that get their periods have no money to buy pads. And so they go to their mothers and they say, I've got my period, what do I do about this? And the mother will say, you're a woman now, you sort it out. And that's generationally what has happened time and time again. You sort it out. So how do you get pads?
Oh, I just don't even want to say, but I'm guessing that
they exchange sex for pads that cost 10 or 20 cents or, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And so I mean, we've worked for a lot of years now, in this field, and that's probably some of the most extreme stories that we've heard, and for something so simple that can be, provided. Yeah, so.
We have just no idea, do we?
Yeah.
This, just listening to these stories, it's just like, man, I have nothing to complain about.
Yeah.
I have nothing to complain about in New Zealand.
We have no idea.
We might have our certain issues, but it just pales in comparison to that. Imagine that being your life, is that if you want clean water, you have to basically sell your body for clean water. If you want sanitary products, you have to sell your body when you're 14 or 13, 12 sometimes, younger even, in order to just get the sanitary products that you need.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mind-blowing and
yeah,
awful,
I mean,
evil.
Yeah, once again, that's where that whole generational thing comes in. This is what it happened to me. So you just this is how it's going to happen for you.
And I suppose you see now the appeal of going overseas.
Yeah, and so, I mean, there was a story of a young girl within one of the Mohi schools, or within their involvement anyway. This is a situation that probably occurs over and over again, where her mum said, I've got some chores to do. I think the young girl was 12 years of age. She said, I've got some chores to do. I'm going to leave you. You're going to stay at home, and I'm going to go out and do these jobs, and I'll be back later. And while that mum was out, a man came in and raped that young girl. And when she told her mum about it, her mum was well aware of that's what would have been, was happening when she left to do those chores. It was prepaid plan. Yeah, and well, you just get over it, because this is how life is here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is what happened to me when I was a child, and that's just how it is. Yeah.
How young was this girl?
Yeah, I think she was 11 or 12, but thanks to Mohi, she was. I mean, most people don't speak about it. She did, yeah. So,
Wow.
and Mohi were able to get her out of that situation and away to one of our boarding schools, and
That's awesome. So she's now going to be on a different path for her
Yeah,
life, and
yeah.
her daughter, if she has
Yeah.
children, won't get told, "Hey, this is how it's
This is
gotta
how
be.
it is. Yeah,
Just get over
Yeah.
it." Yeah.
yeah. And so it's all about breaking that generational mindset. It's about education. Yeah, education is just key to giving options. Yeah, and that's why we're so passionate about that. Our schools and our beauty programs, our barber programs. We have a sewing program now.
Yeah. Let's get
Education gives you options. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing, Education, something we take so for
Yeah.
granted in our country, that's the way out of bondage, out of poverty. It's an alternative way to live for these people. They must.
Yeah.
Are they thirsty for education,
Thirsty for it.
or are they just
Absolutely thirsty
really
for it. Yeah. So
Wow.
thirsty for it. And Missions of Hope have a goal that within 10 years they'll have 100,000 students in their program.
Yes.
And I believe they'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the more resources they have,
Yeah.
and Free
Yeah.
Reign has, the
Yeah.
more people they can train,
Yep.
the more people they can then reach and help get jobs, and then we can see. I mean, you've said this before when I've talked to you about it. Even if you can just help one person to change their life, even if you can just help the one, that is sometimes enough. But to be able to see this generational change
Yes.
and even a community, imagine seeing a community just change
Yeah.
their whole
Yeah.
mindset and
Yeah.
how they've been living.
Yeah, that's quite how we work, and where we work in Thailand, we work with a local church there, with a local pastor who actually he pastors, but he also is our translator and runs our mentorship for our men's barber programs. And so we work within his community, within his slum community, as much as we can partner with him to do that, and other organisations, to feed the people in that community, to make sure they've got places. We're currently building, we've brought one home already, and I'm building our second and third home on land within that community that will house our students that have come out of our program that have been living on the street, living on the beach. Yeah.
Wow.
So, to give that whole... it's that picture of the gospel in action rather than just the gospel with words, because for these people
giving arms and legs to the gospel.
So it's about making that change and providing practically alongside
So good.
the gospel.
I love it. Now I imagine, we briefly talked about this already, but I imagine that you were presented with some absolutely heartbreaking and overwhelming scenes during your time there. In a practical way, could you explain a little bit how you handle that? How do you not despair in your work?
I think it's timing. There is despair, but God always gives. For me personally, I've found that, and I know that others that I've travelled with find that He gives you grace for the time when you're there, when you're in country, when you're seeing, when you're hearing, to carry that burden without falling apart.
Yeah.
And it's not that you it's not that you don't feel the despair. It's that you're able to to continue on and to lay that aside for that period of time and do what you need to do while
That's
you're there.
interesting. I didn't know what you were going to say, but I didn't expect that, because you kind of think, just push it to the side and move on. That's the kind of thought that I kind of had. Like, how would you deal with that? You just compartmentalize, and just move it to the side. But actually, it sounds like
you live it, but you you live it, but you can live it. God
Yeah.
gives you this
He
special
enables.
ability to carry it. Yeah. And so it's not like you hear the stories and you see the sights and you see the extremes of filth and poverty and abuse without feeling it. You definitely feel it, but it's like, it's almost, it's just got to be that you don't carry it. Yeah. But it is exhausting, and I'd have to say that I came home from Kenya pretty wiped out. Yeah, pretty. There definitely was despair. But there's always that hope too, and so when I come home, God just works in me to do healing. I know mostly the Americans would go home to their therapists.
I see. So you're saying the healing that you're talking about is like emotional healing.
Yeah, emotional healing. Yeah. And and so I will very often find that when I get home, then it presents itself much more fully. When I got home this time, for many weeks I felt very emotionally exhausted, largely not able to talk about it. I will very often enter worship and cry because I just feel God so heavily in worship. It's like I can see the pictures of the people in the slums and those in the worship time. Yeah.
Wow.
And so then I'll often cry then. I very rarely cry in country.
And I think it's good to cry. Jesus gave us that example, when Mary and Martha came to him and said, "Where were you? Our brother is dead." Jesus wept, I think that's a beautiful picture of how to, what you were saying, feel it. But it is, we don't carry the weight of that, like you say. And like with Lazarus, Jesus wept. He knew he was going to resurrect him.
Yeah.
But he still wept.
Yeah.
When he encountered these women whose their hearts were broken, they were in despair that their brother had died. Jesus still wept. But we still got to see the miracle of Lazarus's resurrection.
Exactly.
And that seems like that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
He does to you when you come back.
Yeah.
That's the resurrection.
I just, I've so blessed really to have, just a community of 2 or 3 friends who get it and who have been there and seen it with me, and who allow me the space and the time and listen.
Well, I'm really grateful, extra grateful now that you've agreed to come and chat with us.
So it's pretty tough when you come back from being so enveloped in that in that whole picture of, that whole thing of abuse and exploitation and just what you've seen and heard, and you come back and someone says, "How was your holiday?"
Oh my gosh. Good grief. That is not a holiday.
And you've lived this, and I know anyone who's done mission will have experienced that. That's, and so
things not to say to a hardcore mission worker. So when you're not in the nations doing this awesome mission work, the ministry that you do with Free Reign, what does the mission lifestyle look like for you back in New Zealand?
Okay, so sometimes it looks like sort of periods of not much, where you sort of think, oh, it's like a different life. But obviously, with being on the board, there's, meetings and maybe decisions over things that have to be made, connecting in with particularly any of our staff that are working in Thailand, our director of our program there, who's also the founder of our organisation, just making sure she's doing okay. And because we make training, sometimes I might have to do write-ups for that, or, we have a magazine that goes out once a year, videos.
All the unseen stuff that makes it all happen, I suppose.
Yeah, and so sometimes might go weeks without anything more than praying, for everyone and over, where God's leading me and what he wants me to do next and that kind of thing. And then other times it's busy. If we're taking a team in country, like into Kenya, that'll be months of work where we're doing 1 or 2 meetings every month. And because of the time differences, when we have a board meeting, there's probably 5 different time zones we're working on to get us all on that call. Yes, we have a sewing and a textile program in Thailand now, which came about through COVID, and we sell hundreds of products from that program in the States. I'm currently looking at how we can put that online here, and I can sell those products from here rather than people having to pay big shipping costs into New Zealand. And so usually when I'm over in America or Thailand, I'll bring product back. So I've just got to get that up online. And
sounds good.
Yeah.
What type of product is it, by the way?
Oh, we've got hats, woolen and cotton stuff, macrame, baby rattles, t-shirts, tote bags, notebooks. So we have women, mainly older women, that were left when the shutdown happened through COVID, just left with nowhere to live or work. The bars and brothels all shut, and so we took them in and trained them, and it was just meant to be temporary. But now that those products fully fund all of their program and some of our barber and beauty program.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so what area of the work that Free Reign International does are you most passionate about?
That's tough. I, of course, love to be in country. I love to be in Thailand. As tough as Kenya was, I absolutely loved being there, loved being in country. I think out of all of our programs, we've got 5 or 6 different projects around the world. There's only one that I haven't been to, I think. So for me, the connection with those programs and seeing that on the ground is, I really love that. I'm really passionate about that. Any way that I can support that and the people working there. I love to be in Thailand, out on the street and just in amongst it. I remember the first time I ever went into a bar and I was so petrified and terrified. And now I think, I just love to be out there. One of the things we do in Thailand often is go out and we'll give out thousands of condoms to the girls working along, on the beaches and the street. I love to do that. Love to do that practical and that connection also. We give them out packs of condoms, and inside we have a card in Thai that says
that just seems crazy to me. Here's a condom. Here's information about our organisation.
Do you need help? Here's a number to call. We had a guy that had been working on the beach there, selling himself for several months, I think. He got a packet of those condoms a few years ago. He pulled that card out straight away. He looked at it. He said, "Can I have help now?" And he left. He left then.
Really? Wow.
He came into our barber program, either our barber or our beauty. I can't remember which. He's now been our lead educator in our beauty program for 2 or 3 years. This year he'll start. He's going to start working in a full salon.
Wow.
And he's never gone back.
That's amazing. That's so wonderful.
Yeah. Just that element of loving on them and caring what happens to them and caring about their safety. And it initiates a conversation and it initiates a connection. Yep. And we'll do that even to the customers, even to the
Really?
if we can pass a packet of those on, because they'll say, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? That initiates conversation with that side of things as well. So,
yeah. Wow, that's great. How can we support from little old New Zealand or from wherever people are listening? How can we support Free Reign International and the work that you do?
Oh, well, obviously, first and foremost, prayer.
Yes.
It's just so vital. It's just so vital to everything that we do. To get on our social media, follow what we're doing. You never know when something's going to come up. We firmly believe in using what's in your hand to, in this work, that there's nothing that is sort of that you can't use to do this work. It doesn't matter what your skills or your education or whatever. Follow us, learn. Yeah, I'm always learning. I'm always still learning, even when I'm not overseas. I'm still watching stuff. I'm still reading. I'm still following as much stuff as I can to understand. Yeah, and I think that's like your Christian walk too. You never.
You never stop learning.
You never stop learning, and you never should. Yeah,
No,
you never should say, "Oh, well, I've come to the whole end of it." Yeah, so follow us. If you go on our website, there'll be links to financial donations that you can give. Like I say, we've got a whole website called Sowing Freedom. Sowing Freedom, which is our products that we sell. You can buy those online, preferably though. Yeah, it's probably better to, if I can get it up and going, that they buy them off me. Yeah.
Let's get that happening. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So all the usual Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah. Facebook.
Free Reign International.
Free Reign International. Yeah.
Instagram.
And then that'll take you to our other programs. Yeah, like Share Love and Sowing Free.
Now, you mentioned prayer. I was wondering if maybe you could give us 3 ways that an everyday Christian woman like myself, like you, can be praying for women coming out of sex slavery, women and men as well, and also just the trafficking and the work that you do. What are 3 things that we could kind of pray for?
The focus for us when we take students in is that they would heal, that they would heal completely and holistically. More often than not, physical injuries that need healing. There's disease that needs healing. There's addictions that need healing. So in every aspect, mind, body, soul, spirit, it's a long journey for them. It's a long journey. Yeah, that's, I guess, our prayer, and what we really follow through from within our programs, because within our beauty program we don't just train them in here. We have devotions, we have church, we have English lessons, we teach them life skills, because there's just things missing from that aspect of their, that they've never had to do, just basic things in your life, showering and washing and cleaning, and that they've missed along the way, and so that's really important to us, and I think it's really important as they come out of the exploitation, out of the industry, that healing is so necessary. Practical needs, provision, as I said, so many, they come out with nothing, and very often are expected to be providing for their family back in the village, or so paying for their brother's education, paying for their parents, so they need provision, practically homes to live in, places to live, they're coming off the streets, living on the beach, all of those things. Practical provision, healing, true freedom. We can provide a freedom in one sense, but it's really only God that can provide, true freedom. That's something that so many are hungry for when they come out of that, and that unconditional love, that isn't based upon their body and how much they're worth, and how much they can sell themselves for, and that unconditional love, and that we want to be able to offer them, but ultimately, God is going to do the perfect job at that. Yeah.
Well, you can help get them into better circumstances, get them out of the slums, and equip them with skills, like you say, to not have to sell their bodies. But yeah, it's only in Christ that, well, their soul can be healed, first of all, and also that they can be reconciled to God. Because, I mean, when we're all in despair and when we're all in our suffering, that's when you're crying out to God the most. So I'm not surprised that many of them, as you say, are hungry for the truth of God, God's love, and that he doesn't want you to put your body on the line for him. He put his body on the line for you. Yeah. And your body doesn't need to be crushed or abused. His body was crushed and abused for you. And it's the opposite of, I suppose, the opposite of what they've known for so long. And what a gift the gospel is for all of us, no matter our circumstances. Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, let's just recap. So pray for healing, first of all, and practical provision. Yes, so healing, provision, and true freedom. Yeah, so good. All right, well, we're going to begin to wrap up now. It's been so wonderful to talk to you. Can't believe we made it through without dropping. I was like getting a little bit misty there, but I held it together. But the last question that I always like to ask everyone of my guests is, can you maybe just tell us how it is that you live your faith outside of Sunday?
Well, okay. I would like to think that outside of Sunday, my faith looks predominantly like relationship. Relationship with God first and foremost, intimacy and interaction with him and his presence, no matter where I am or what I'm doing, or that he's just right there. And then out of that, of course, that my relationships that are so important to me and that I'm building and growing, and particularly family and with the grandkids, that they see that in me, that first and foremost, that they see that God relationship, that he is glorified in my life, that I can love on them and all those beautiful kids within my
yes, because you do work at a
kindergarten. There's nothing more amazing than sitting with them and just having the privilege of feeling like you can impart some of God's love, and putting these kids to sleep and just being able to just sit there and pray and over them, and thinking about this tattoo. I don't know about people say they have a life verse or their most favourite verse, but this is throughout the work that I've done over the years. This has always been I guess what I hope to live out, and so I guess I hope to live this out in my everyday faith. It's essentially Micah 6:8 in Thai. So it says, do what is just, love kindness, and live with humility. And that probably sums up how what I want my faith to look like. Yeah.
Well, it certainly does. And you just act that out all the time. You're living it out. You absolutely are. And really admire you. Like, I don't know if I could do what you do. And I feel like that's part of the body of Christ, is that God has given you this special gifting. Not that you're the only one who can do it. I feel like there's so many people who could do and support the work that you do, and maybe even be trained to be someone who does the work that you do. But I'm so thankful for you and what you do, genuinely. So thank you, Leanne. And I think that's it for our episode today, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Congrats, you made it to the end of this episode of the Outside of Sunday podcast. Thanks for the support. Become an official outsider by liking and subscribing and leaving a 5-star review. You can connect with me on Instagram or Facebook. Just search Outside of Sunday podcast, and don't forget to let someone you know about this podcast.